it's so nice to finally have music out that people can actually like go and find. So we're all freaking relieved. Oh, hey, by the way, are we allowed to cuss on this?
Fucking course, I don't give a shit. Say whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. Say whatever the fuck you want. This is your interview. I don't care, man. I don't like to censor. I don't censor, and I feel like when you listen to do an interview, whether it's on TV or doing what we're doing, when you're trying not to swear, like, it just doesn't seem as genuine. Say what you want to say, and if people don't like it, they just get over it. It's let's just talk, and the music. What I really like about you guys is the two songs I've heard sound nothing alike at all in any way. How important is it for you guys to write music that's, whether it's the songs, the verses, the choruses, the melodies, even within the songs themselves, there's parts of it that doesn't sound like the rest of the song sometimes. And how important is it to you to have music that doesn't sound like the rest of your stuff?
Dynamics are so important to us. Honestly, I think the biggest reason that our music came out that way, though, is because all four of us write the music together. And so each of us have different influences and can play different instruments. And so, our classically trained violinist writes music totally differently than our drummer does.
Right.
And so when we're all producing together, the music actually ends up kind of all over the place, but that's, I think, one of the reasons that we love it so much is that the genres have kind of been destroyed.
Yeah.
I feel like so many artists now cross over, and that is 100% what our goal is. There's no rules anymore.
Yeah, and one thing that I loved about music back, in maybe it was the 70s, and even a little bit in the 80s, you have bands like Led Zeppelin and Queen where they've got rock songs that are definitely rock, but they also have songs that nowadays they wouldn't be considered rock at all. The Eagles did it, Queen did it, Zeppelin did it. All of the great bands, they didn't pigeonhole themselves into one style. If it felt good to them when they wrote it, and their fans liked it because it was them and it was what they wanted to do and what felt right when they were writing it.
Yeah. I wonder what kind of music they would make now. You know what I mean? Like, knowing where music as an entire industry has gone, I'm curious what a Led Zeppelin would actually write today.
I feel like the Eagles would be considered country now, and I feel like Queen would be considered pop now, and Zeppelin, I think you can't put Zeppelin in one category. I don't think you can do that with them, and I don't think you can really do that with Queen. You can't do it. But that's what makes music so good, is it can be so different. It's the most emotional art that there is, I feel like. And the song Quit Quitting is really, that's a deep song. I mean, J Cash is too, but Quit Quitting, that's a deep song. Where does that song come from for you?
Yeah, so I do have the lyric side of the band. So
sure.
As far as the actual concept of the song, that was a little more on me. So I actually am qualified to answer this. But honestly, the whole album was written in our basement, and we had just gotten signed to Fearless based on a past project that we had done. And so all of a sudden we were like, we went 2 years without playing a show, which is crazy for us, being used to being on the road all the time. And so there was a lot of positivity coming from the label and like just getting signed and the excitement of writing a new album. But there was also a lot of doubt just within changing the band, the actual name of the band, and then just, I guess, where we were at in life as far as deciding what the future actually held. And I think every musician deals with so much doubt that I think that's a little bit of a piece of actually writing and creating, is that I don't think any creative is 100% confident in their work all the time. It's a relationship with your creations, and Quit Quitting is 100% about that. It's, the whole song starts out with the lyrics, "What if I quit?" And then on the flip side, "What if I quit quitting as in, you know, what if I actually like stuck with this and saw it through?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the whole song just sticks right in those lines.
Yeah, because I feel like nowadays I feel like people are afraid to really, not all people, but a lot of people are afraid to really, when things get hard, when they get tough, or when they get even controversial, there's that, you know, excuse of, oh, I don't have time for this, or, yeah, this isn't worth it. But, like, those are the things that when you stick with them, like you said, when it's done and you've seen it through, it's the most rewarding experience ever, because when things are hard, that's what makes them worth doing. And music is one of those things. It's not easy. It's one of the hardest things, especially nowadays in the music industry and music business. It's very hard.
Yeah, I mean, imagine how hollow music would be if there was no struggle involved.
Exactly.
If it was all just sunshine and rainbows, like there's no contrast.
Mm-hmm. And some of the best songs by some of the biggest bands came from their worst possible moments that they were in, and I mean, they quit quitting. They didn't give up, and now we have some of the best songs of all time from, you know, bands like Korn,
yeah.
or, you know, and those are the songs that people relate to the most. And I feel like that's just beautiful, and that song is exactly that.
Thank you. And I guess I should say it's never an option for us to actually quit.
Right.
But it's one of those things that you're constantly debating if you're going the correct direction and doing it the way that fits your creativity the most, and your like fits who you are at your center.
Yeah, definitely. And signing to Fearless, like, as such a new entity, Not a Toy is such a new. It's a new project. It's you know, to sign to a label as big as Fearless so early in this project and this entity's existence. I mean, that's rare. That doesn't happen very, very often. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I don't think it does. I mean, how did that happen so early for this band? You said it was based on a previous project, but can you talk a little bit more about that?
Of course. Fearless has been an absolute dream to work with. The whole team is like the perfect combination of letting the artists be their creative selves,
nice,
and then also lifting the artists and giving them guidance in the ways that they want. So literally it has been a dream of a pair for Not a Toy to be signed to Fearless. But it started from that first band. We've been sending Fearless demos for probably at least 5 years.
Oh wow!
So. And but of course, being a no-name band, Fearless gets bombarded all the time.
Yeah.
And it actually came down to personal relationships. I feel like our drummer ended up befriending one of the A&R guys at Fearless, and that was the start of it. And we showed them the new music that we were working on, this album, and this new album was nothing like our old stuff. So that's why we wanted to start over, because it really is a new band. This process has been us actually learning to produce ourselves and make, every sound you hear in all of our music is made by us.
Yeah.
And I think Cody, or our A&R guy, I don't know if I'm supposed to name drop, but he heard it, and I think he saw the potential in what Not a Toy was doing.
What was it about Fearless? I mean, because of all the labels, I mean, Fearless, it's such a prolific label, and so many bands have walked through those doors and been associated with that label, not just now, but over the last 10 years, 15 years. It's been insane. But there's so many labels you guys could have wanted to go with, whether it be Victory or other labels and whatnot. What was it about Fearless that made them the label to go with?
We were rock kids, we grew up in the Warped Tour scene.
Yes.
We played Warped Tour a couple of years, and so when we were searching for a label, it was only an option for it to be one of the, Rise, Hopeless, Fearless,
sure,
Epitaph, like the
sure,
labels that represented those types of bands that we loved. and we actually had a couple offers from different labels, and we really, really wanted to go with Fearless, just based on what we had heard about other bands on the labels and whatnot. And I think the biggest thing is that Fearless is in my mind the most open to letting bands experiment. As
sure.
in, if we were to come out with this music on a different label, I think we would have been somewhat dragged back to rock, like at its core. And we don't want to have any rules or labels on us. We want to just create art that we think is dope. And Fearless saw that, and I think they were the only ones who was willing to nurture that vision instead of try to turn us into another one of their rock bands.
Well, and that's why so many of the bands that have been with Fearless got as popular as they did and stayed with that label as long as they did, or as long as they have, because, I mean, I feel like with a lot of labels, or just even fans, they want to dictate what a band sounds like so much, and when that happens, it's not the band anymore. You know, some of the, and that's happened so much with a lot of, you know, huge bands, worst records or worst songs, because the label controlled what they wrote, what they did, or gave them the music, said, here, play this, and the fans see through that shit so much, you know, and that's what makes so many of those bands so good, because that's them. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what it was supposed to be from the beginning. What is it about the violin that made you want to include that in your art, in your music? Because there's not a lot. There are, but there aren't a lot of bands that incorporate the violin and classical oriented instruments into rock and roll and metal and all that stuff.
Violin has always been one of my favorites. I grew up with bands like Yellowcard, and I always thought it would be so cool to have a band with a violinist, but that's actually not the reason it wasn't just for the flashy side of, oh, look, we have a violinist.
Right.
It is actually because TJ, our violinist, is a classically trained musician. It's not even that he just plays violin. That's, you know, of course we love the violin, but we wanted him for his producer mind. He is such a genius, and I don't throw that word around lightly, but he is a genius with music, and that's the type of person that, you know, that we want to create with. And I can honestly say that about every person in the band. And I think everyone says that about the other people,
right.
Which is the type
That's
of
awesome.
we want to be in.
Yeah.
But the violin is so much fun. The biggest thing for me was that a lot of violinists don't have as much stage presence, because of course it's an instrument with no frets. Like of course you can't, you know, you have to listen to hear the pitch. But he was the first guy who I ever saw where he's a headbanging violinist. His stage presence is absolutely insane. And of course, you know, the performance element of being in a band is equally as important once the music's done. Like, you also have to connect with people on a live level.
Is it difficult to make, because violin and rock music, they're such different styles sometimes. Is it hard to mesh the two into one, or does it just come naturally?
I think we had some great bands who did it before us that we also kind of looked up to. I'm even thinking of, even Panic at the Disco, with the little plucky violin part in I Write Sins, Not Tragedies.
Oh, yeah. True.
Like that little bit of violin in there, we heard that and we were like, oh, this can actually be a really creepy instrument as well. And that's kind of the side of it. We didn't at the time use it as a classical instrument. Now our minds have opened up a lot further since kind of stepping back from the rock genre specifically. Yeah. Now we can look at it as, you know, we use every instrument. We use horns, we use violins, we use movie toms, like those big, you know what I'm talking about. There's endless instruments, and now the whole wave of this next generation of bedroom beat makers, we can play every instrument on a MIDI controller, and all of a sudden we no longer just play violin, we don't just play guitar, we don't just play piano, we play every instrument, and a lot of sounds that we use aren't even from musical instruments specifically. It's just from banging on stuff around our house or recording weird sounds that we hear out and about. It's really like our creativity has quadrupled since leaving the rock element behind.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's important to not have those genre boundaries. It helps when you're trying to explain to like somebody who's never heard your music. Well, it's kind of rock, it's kind of pop, it's kind of alternative, it's a little bit of synth, a little bit of electronics, there's a little bit of all of this, but like you can't really explain it. And I feel like sometimes that's the best thing is you have to really hear it. And one song that I loved, and Jay Cash, dude, that song, that video, I fucking love that song, man.
Thank you.
Yes. And it's so different from Quit Quitting, but which is, I feel like musically Jay Cash is more my style that I gravitate towards more. I love Quit Quitting, but I like Jay Cash more. But in the video, the words that are popping, stuff like that. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of mental health is an important subject, and that video talks about it a little bit with anxiety and stuff like that. I talked to a lot of bands about this. How important, especially coming from the Warped Tour scene like we do, you've played that tour. That's a very big subject on that tour, and it was on that tour. And in this, I don't want to say scene, but in our crowd of people, it's so much more important, needs so much emphasis. How important is that as songwriters for you to address that?
Oh, mental health is the most important thing, and we love and care about our fans so much that, it's things that just being human, all of us deal with at some point or another. The song, although it does touch on anxiety, was really about just the growth of the band as well. So actually both of those singles were really focused on all of this, all these questions going through our minds. But I think this is a little unrelated, but I think you'll find this a little interesting. I actually started tattooing because our fans were having issues with mental health, and we saw that so many of our fans had scars and stuff like that we kind of thought it would be cool if a band could cover their own fans' scars with art. And that's wow. The biggest, the music is really important to us. It's the biggest art element of our band. But I think that's what makes Not a Toy what it is that it's an art collective more than just music.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything from, our violinist scoring movies to, we did all the color correction and, co-direct music videos, and when we're working on our fall line for clothing right now, and it's not just slapping graphics on T-shirts. We're actually choosing the cuts of fabric and picking everything, and we designed all of it. We did the graphic design work for everything. So that's really like to bring it all the way back to your self-love and mental health. It is so important to us to have Not a Toy feel more like a lifestyle, and mental health is a huge aspect of that. And I think especially with helping our fans directly with their scars has just been like the most gratifying experience.
Well, yeah, because when you see them, it happened with my mother-in-law a few weekends ago. We were playing cornhole, and she was down next to me. She's like, "What are those scars on your arm?" I was like, "From a different time. I'm not there anymore." She's like, "Were you?" It's like, "I was, but I'm not there anymore. But we can talk about it. It's such, and there's more people that deal with that stuff than anybody really realizes. And that's the best thing about music, and especially your music, because people can hear it, they can listen to it, and they can connect with it on multiple levels. And I feel like that's what makes music so great.
I think that's why we all gravitated towards this genre, was that it's such an emotional this music had such a big impact that I think a lot of the kids who were kind of struggling with that stuff like gravitated towards this genre, and here we are today.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because every genre welcomes anybody who wants to listen, but our world is so all-inclusive for the most part that we're just saying, we don't care who you are, what you look like, where you've been, what you like, what you don't like, what you believe. We're family. Let's hang out. Let's have some fun. Let's listen to music, and let's heal together. And I feel like that's what made Warped Tour so great, and that's what makes all of this so great. That's also
it's a community.
It is, but that's also why I really like that you guys don't stick to one genre. There's so many different styles and sounds and elements because, the best records are the ones where if that's not your style, give it till the next song, and maybe that will be. There's something that everybody can sonically fall in love with, and then when they find the sound they like, then they hear the lyrics, and that's where you really get them. And there's so many layers to it with your guys' music. But you talked about the wardrobe and the streetwear and everything. What made you guys want to go down that avenue?
It's just something that we've always been passionate about, and it's something that we've always separated in our minds where, we looked at clothing as something separate. There's band merch, but we would always be like, man, it'd be so cool if we had a streetwear company on the side, or it would be so cool if we, actually started scoring movies, and then that became like its own side business. And eventually we realized that the businesses themselves are not the center. The center is us as creatives. And so we realized that, genres have been disintegrated, but maybe it's time that there was an artist who disintegrated all of the lines between art forms where, of course we can still have some band merch, but focusing on our love and our passion for creativity and being able to put that in every element of the band. We love, especially with the music video side of things, being able to really dive into treating it like a film, and then treating our clothing like an actual brand and an actual streetwear brand. I think it's something we've always been passionate about, and for the first time we realized that we can make that a reality if we actually want to, and that's what Not a Toy is all about.
That's awesome, man. And you've had a couple songs released this year within the last month or two. It's been a couple weeks since the last one really hit the public. More music coming?
Oh yeah, you got the whole album done.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about dropping one more song and then the album shortly after.
Awesome.
And then the fall clothing line, or our fall line for streetwear will be coming out in we're hoping August or September.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I wanted to ask you, being set with this project launching at this time and the record releasing at this time, with touring not happening, is that harder on you guys as a new music project, or does it give you more time to focus on the other aspects of everything you guys do, or kind of both?
Yeah, there's so many types of creation. We of course we wish we were on tour right now, but I mean, it's not anything that Not a Toy has known. We've never actually been on tour as this project.
Sure.
So we've been telling people that Not a Toy was born on the internet and raised during Corona, and it's that's such a bizarre way to start a band for our first release to be in this time. But at the same time, it is really nice that we can focus on so many other art forms right now, and then I guess really lay the groundwork. We're not just sitting, waiting for touring to start. We are constantly creating in so many other avenues. We are very excited for tour, though. I don't want to downplay that.
Right.
I'm hoping that it opens up really, really soon.
Well, and just think, I mean, the fact that the record is going to release during a time where there's probably not going to be any touring when it releases, let's just be realistic, it's probably not going to be, but the fact that there's not, the record is still releasing, which means that when touring finally happens, fans will have had that much more time to sit with the music and fall in love with it and pick their songs they like, learn the lyrics, learn the songs, and then when you guys play the new music live, it's going to be that much better, because playing new music can be one or two things. It can be good or bad, and it doesn't always go well, but it has to go well, because fans will know every song by the time we're all able to get back out on the road. It's going to be that much better for the bands, better for the fans, just that much better of a show, I feel like.
Yeah, that's going to be really bizarre, but I actually am looking forward to it. Usually a band that is just coming out would maybe drop one song, but they'd be on tour when that song drops, and fans would be finding them at live shows. So it is going to be really funny when we do our first show, because we've never played a show before. I have a feeling that our fans from around the country who we've been building over the years will want to be at that first one, because that first one is almost more of a moment in history for our group. It's not just our first show of the tour. It's actually our first show ever that people could attend if they wanted to, and I think that's going to be really special.